Whatever you want. Yeah.
Awesome.
Go for
Okay.
it.
All right. So. Okay. That is absolutely looking like the outro. Oh my god.
Okay, so quickly before we jump into the episode, I just wanted to address a few updates that I want to talk about in this quick segment. So I know it's been a couple months since I uploaded the first podcast, but I'm getting back on with regular structured uploaded content. I've already got 3 podcasts recorded, including this one today, and 2 more to go over the next few weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to spread it about and have more regular content going up. And with those, on my social media, on LinkedIn and on Facebook, I've made posts about them already, and you can look up the guests yourself before they even come out. And just to give some context for this video and how I know Mitch, is that a few weeks ago I actually interned at Fanbytes for 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks I learned and got to speak with all the guys that worked there. And Mitch was really intriguing to me because he has a past history of starting different companies. And so I really wanted to pick his brains a bit. And what Fanbytes is a social platform, a social advertising platform for brands that makes it easy for brands to advertise at scale through mobile content on social media. And they primarily focus on Snapchat. So we're going to find out more about that, and let's get into it. Quickly as well, do you prefer episodes, so cutting these videos into 5-10 minute episodes, or do you prefer the long form content? So leave a comment below which one you think's better.
Okay, so welcome to the Bayta podcast. I am joined with Mitch Fasanya. So I've been working at Fanbytes for the past week or 2 now, and Mitch is one of the co-founders here. And in this podcast, we're talking to entrepreneurs, successful, aspirational, inspirational people. So why don't you give everyone in the camera a little bit of intro about yourself and what you get up to?
Sure. So as mentioned, I'm the co-founder at Fanbytes. I've been starting tech companies since I was about 15, 16 years old. I've already sold 2, and hopefully this will be the 3rd.
Brilliant. So moving on from that fairly quickly, I want to talk a bit more about your business experience in the past. And you mentioned that you've sold 2 companies. So the first one I've got written down here it's JSON Who Is? Is that pronounced right?
Yeah, so it's JSON Who Is.
Okay.
It's, do you want me to explain?
Yeah,
sure. So basically, it's quite a technical product. If anyone's ever registered a domain name, they'll know what Who Is data is. It's basically where, when you buy the domain from a registrar, you have to give them your name, your email, your address, your phone number, all of this really personal information. And obviously marketers and businesses find that super useful. So I basically built a piece of software that aggregated all of that Who Is data and then formatted it in a JSON format. So hence the name JSON Who Is. And then I would just sell that data to marketers and businesses.
So was this a particularly unique idea, or was it just something like, how did you stumble across it? Where did you see this problem?
Well, like I said, I've been trying to start companies since I was very young. And when I was trying to build one of my other companies, I realized this data was actually super useful and I wanted it for myself. And there were a couple of people out there who were doing it, but it was like minimum £1,000 to £2,000 a month to use it. So that just wasn't feasible at 15 years old. So I decided to build it myself.
So you built it for people like yourself that actually needed it.
Exactly.
So going back to the first company then, which is it Koala Analytics?
That's the one, yeah.
Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was actually that was the second business. After I had launched JSON Who Is and it was going fairly successfully, I wanted to start analysing the data I was getting from the company itself. So like my customers, learning what my churn rate was, like what my MRR was, and just analysing the business. And to be honest, I started that as just a bit of fun because I wanted to build something new. Really enjoy building stuff, so I thought, why not? I built that in about 6 months, and I mean, it was okay, it was all right, and I just wasn't really enjoying it again, so I decided to try and sell it, and I ended up being introduced to this really cool guy in America. He actually lives in Utah. Never met the guy, but I think he took a liking to me and decided that he would just buy the company just so that we would stay in contact. So yeah, that's the story.
So was the company like as a whole, so was it these 2 businesses came as a package almost, or?
No, so that was a separate business. And the guy who I sold it to was actually looking for someone to consult for him on another tech product. So by buying that from me, he kind of
bought your consultation.
Bought my consultation, exactly. Yeah. So they were separate businesses, but one was joined from the other.
Yeah. And how did you find the process of actually selling these companies?
So that sale of Koala was very easy. The guy, it wasn't very much money, and the guy was just doing it to get me, basically. But with JSON Who Is, that was a much more difficult process because it was much more money and there was much more due diligence involved. Like the guy I was selling it to, because he was also a competitor, I couldn't divulge too much information. So he had to be quite careful about believing what I was saying and understanding exactly what was going on in the background, which I couldn't tell him up front. So that was a much more complicated acquisition.
And did you struggle to almost let go of the company when you were selling it, or was it something that came quite easy?
No, I struggled. I still haven't fully let go of the company. I'm still involved in some capacity, so I don't know if I'll ever fully let go.
And do you think for a lot of entrepreneurs and people starting their own companies, they should have an exit strategy? Do you think that played in the mind when you were creating this, or were you just at the moment focusing on the product, service, and making it as best as possible?
So, I mean, when you're young, I would say just concentrate on what you enjoy doing, have fun. If you're not enjoying it, I wouldn't bother. I mean, things change slightly as you start to progress. I know with Fanbytes, we're quite focused on acquisition, and we think quite a lot about what we need to do in order to be appropriate for acquisition. But I think it's just a matter of where you are and what your stage is. If you're looking to just get into business, just do what you love and just have fun.
Yeah. I suppose that moves quite well onto current position then, Fanbytes. So do you want to talk about how you started to get involved with them? What was the situation where you met Ambrose and Tim?
Yeah, so I think my food's here.
We can pause.
You can pause. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All right, we're all good. So as I was saying, how did you get involved with Fanbytes?
So as I was starting Jason Who Is, about a year later I went to university, and it was at university that I started to meet other entrepreneurial people, which I hadn't really done before that. And one of the guys I met was called Tosin, and he happened to be friends with Tim, who is another co-founder of Fanbytes. Interestingly, Tosin and Tim are actually only friends from Twitter. They'd never even met.
Yeah.
So it was quite fortunate that Tosin decided to introduce me to Tim, which is quite just a strange turn of events that no one really could have predicted. But then after that introduction was made, Tim basically explained to me that him and Ambrose, the third co-founder, were currently running a t-shirt selling business where they basically sold branded t-shirts based on YouTubers or something like that. And they explained to me what they wanted to be doing, which was influencer marketing, a bit closer to what we're doing now. And I just thought that sounded way more interesting than sitting in my room like coding on a server.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's do this together. So I came on board as a co-founder for that, and that was about 2.5, nearly 3 years ago now.
2.5, 3. That's crazy to think. So moving from, I guess, being a lone entrepreneur, creating SaaS products, how's it transitioned to now? So what are the different challenges that you're facing?
So now it's much more about how to build a team and how to put scalable processes in place. Because obviously when it's just you do everything. You're always there to answer a sales call. You're always there to fix a bug that occurs. But when you're building a more scalable platform that could actually be sold for a reasonable amount of money, you need to have something in place where you're not the fail point of the business. Like there's a process there that if you go on holiday or if you are in hospital, the business can carry on.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now, and hopefully we'll be able to do.
Hopefully be able to.
Yeah.
And going back to that topic of sort of end goals, at the moment I've talked to you guys about it a few times, but with Fanbytes, what's the ultimate sort of end goal that you have at the moment? And I'm fully aware that these are likely to change, right?
Yeah. I mean, the end goal will be to sell the company. I think obviously for money, but also just the standing that it will give you with going into future business. If you can go into the next company and you're raising money and you say, my previous company exited for X million and I was the co-founder, that's just amazing. And people will just be throwing money at you at that point.
And how important has fundraising been for Fanbytes particularly?
Very important.
Yeah.
I'd say even when I started, the idea changed completely. It was practically a new company, but since then we've also changed the idea drastically about 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
And without amazing investors who are willing to continue backing us, we wouldn't have been able to do that, and we would have been quite trapped.
But I think those pivots come from, they weren't investing in the ideas that you had, right? It was the 3 people that were co-founding it. So. Awesome. So we're going to go into our next section now, which is called the person behind the business.
Okay.
So I want to give our viewers the insight to the people behind it and actually what makes up their personality. So the first question I've got here is, what were you like growing up? What sort of a child were you? I mean, obviously heavily computer based. So
probably quite a naughty child.
Yeah.
I got in trouble quite a bit. I think I was always just curious. I would always just love to do new things, literally anything, right? Whether it was musical theatre or some sport or something to do with computers, I would always be up for trying any new thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of carried on till now. I still love to do random stuff. I think I was telling you the other day I just took up ballroom dancing randomly at university. But yeah, I was always just curious, trying new things, and I think that's pretty much just my character, to be honest.
I mean, we spoke before, and it'd be interesting to give your perspective on problem solving and how like you really enjoy the process of solving that.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of said it there. I do love solving problems. I think whenever I'm doing something, if I'm not learning to do a new thing, then I probably won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And regardless of what the new thing is, I think that I just love trying to figure it out, and I'm very good at understanding where I'm progressing. So even if it's in schoolwork and I see like my grades are improving, I can kind of internally understand where my improvement's coming from and try and like rationalize it so that I know exactly where I should be like doubling down so I can understand more. And I think I just apply that to everything, really, whether it's business or sports. I think one area that I need to probably do it more is in relationships and trying to actually develop strong, meaningful relationships.
So, and is that like family, like romantic?
Yeah, all relationships. I think that I basically, because I'm quite competitive and I'm quite driven to achieve, I often let relationships slip to the wayside. Yeah. But I'm starting to value them a lot more recently.
I think it comes with learning and reflecting on yourself and also the people around you and like trying to understand their perspectives, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because obviously you are very driven and determined to achieve things, and you want that fulfillment of I'm going to work hard, I'm going to solve these problems, build businesses, do different sports, but sometimes you can neglect the important things. So that's really cool. The next question I've had is, what's been mentally the hardest part of running a startup?
Mentally the hardest part of running a startup?
And that could be from any of the 3 companies you've been involved with.
I would say sacrifice, like knowing that you will not be able to do some of the things you want to do. Yeah. And like knowing that as you go in, that's quite challenging for me because I'm quite, one of the things I want in life is just freedom over time and location. I want to be able to do what I want, where I want, when I want. And knowing when you enter a startup that's not always going to be the case. As much as people tell you like, oh, be your own boss, it's amazing, like you'll love everything you do, that's just not true. Yeah. So that's been quite tough for me, especially at university where you see like literally everything around you is just people having fun, going out, partying, like loving life, and then you're stuck in your bedroom like coding. It can be challenging, but if you know why you're doing it, then you can get through it.
Awesome. And it ties back to a question I mentioned earlier, was, I suppose this isn't much but the person behind the business, but more practical advice. Any advice on fundraising for startups, university students, or anyone who's on the come up essentially, right? And maybe in these early stages, what do they need to prove to investors? Who do they need to approach? Where do they need to be?
Okay, so I'd say there's 2 main things you want to be doing when you're looking to raise money. The first one is make sure that your idea has a degree of defensibility. So that means if you're coming up with a marketplace, say you want to, there's like an Airbnb for everything nowadays. You want to connect homeowners with air conditioning units or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. What's to stop someone down the road from doing the same thing? Like, can you get exclusive licenses? Can you do something like that? So if you can show investors some defensibility, that's amazing. And the second thing is traction. So regardless of how like crazy your idea is, like you want to take men to the moon, if you can just build a model rocket that flies 100 feet in the air, that's better than going to them and saying, I want to go to the moon. Yeah. Because just showing them like some form of like reasonability behind your idea is just way better than a dream. So that's the 2 things that I would recommend.
Awesome. It's interesting because I think I haven't delved into the world myself yet, but from what I see is there are a lot of people, even my age, that thinking before they've even got any traction, I've got to get fundraising.
Yeah.
And they're fundraising to solve their problems that they haven't even tried yet.
Exactly, yeah.
So they don't even know their business is, or startup idea, or how they're going to help the world is actually going to work.
Exactly.
And in demand, so awesome. And lastly here I've got, what are your key philosophies on running a startup and just self-fulfillment?
My key philosophies. Oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That would be, first of all, if you're not enjoying it, stop it. The second thing that I would say is enjoy the process more than the end goal.
Yeah.
Like if you're working for a particular thing and you think like, I'm only going to be happy if I get this thing, then you're just never going to be happy. So you need to be able to enjoy the whole process and love just doing the day-to-day stuff. That's pretty much my philosophy. It's just making sure that you're never doing something just purely to get something, because it just won't work.
That's a common theme in a lot of entrepreneurs or whatever.
Yeah.
They think of something and then they go for all the shortcuts possible to get that number, and they never actually make it and invest in the long run. So awesome. And next section I'm probably going to move on to is some of the motivations that you have behind. I know we've touched upon it, but I want to ask this question: is have you ever had anything difficult in your life that you've had to deal with, and times that you've faced adversity that have made you stronger? You don't have to give specifics, but any situations that you can feel like that actually shaped me a little bit.
I mean, I would say I'm quite fortunate in my life that I've been brought up in a very middle-class family. I've had a very good education. I've had almost everything given to me in that sense. But I would say the most drastic thing that's affected me has been my parents' drive for me to go into academia or academics. Pretty much my whole life there have been arguments about me wanting to do business and then wanting me to do school and go to university. I mean, that's pretty common with like every young person in the UK, I'm sure. But I felt it I felt it very strongly that that's not what I wanted to do. So that's just always been in the back of my mind, like I've got to prove that right. I've got to prove that I was right the whole time and that I don't need academia in order to be successful.
But that chip on your shoulder as well surely is a driving force as well.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's
I've got to prove, like,
exactly.
Not that you have respect and love for your parents, I'm sure, but it's like, no, I can do this. I'm going to prove this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question. Some more practical advice for our viewers is how would you network yourself with people in whatever industry you're in, and the best way to connect with them?
Okay. So the way that I would do that is, first of all, look at the networks closest to you. Like if you have a family friend who is anywhere close to the sphere you want to be in, speak to them, and any of your friends or friends of friends or whatever, just use that network. And then after that, you should start expanding. So even if you're on LinkedIn and you see someone post about something related to your niche or your market, comment on their thing or just send them a direct message and say, oh, hey, let's have a chat about this. We might be able to work together in the X way. And I mean, I don't mean do that like to every single person you see because, like, believe me, it's just annoying. If you honestly think that you could have something to offer this person or you have an interesting viewpoint that they would want to hear, then message them. And your network will just naturally grow if you're willing to do that.
Awesome. And then off the back of that, if someone was to approach to you and say, oh, I want an internship at Fanbytes or whatever, what do you think would get you excited or sort of motivate you to be like, I'll actually listen to this person?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to approach that. The first way is people who have done something outside the norm or like actually done something. So we get applications all the time of people who've been to university and have done fairly well. Like that's pretty common. But someone who has been to university but also set up a side business selling Japanese clothes, that's cool. I'll talk to that person. And then the other way is like with your actual application, you can be pretty cool. Like we had a recent application from someone who created a Snapchat filter just for our office that said, hire me. And like that's going to get you some attention. You're going to be spoken to. So I think the main thing is just standing out. standing out for something good, and that's going to work.
Awesome. So those were the main topics that I was going to cover. Right now, we're going to go on to some quick fire questions. They're the same ones that I used in the last podcast, but I just want to see sort of your different opinions and all the guests that I get.
Okay.
So just the first thing that comes into your head, let's go with it. So famous or from your family, whoever. So biggest person who influenced you.
Elon Musk.
Favorite artist.
Mozart.
If you could speak to 3 people, dead or alive.
Oh, okay. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and oh man, that's really hard.
It's difficult.
That's really difficult. Who would it be? And
You've got the business too covered there.
yeah, I've got the. Oh yeah, the next one is going to be something to do with business, and
Sports, actors.
man, this is too difficult. This is way too difficult.
We can come back. We can come back to the third guest.
Yeah.
Short or long Bitcoin?
Short now.
Yeah. Sports or esports?
Sports.
Netflix or reading?
Netflix.
And one book that you'd recommend?
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Awesome.
And that's the person that I would speak to, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
That's the person.
He's really interesting.
Yeah.
What sort of business stuff is he? It's real estate, isn't it?
Yeah, real estate and just personal finance.
Yeah.
I think that's something I always have thought that schools are lacking in, and just children always never get taught by their parents or schools. I think, yeah, that's
a solid foundation.
That's a solid foundation for sure.
Awesome. And then lastly, just if you wanted to look in the camera and plug any stuff that you've got going on, if it's just Fanbytes or you're on LinkedIn, anything that you want to plug.
Yeah, I mean, follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Snapchat, Mitch_Fass on Snapchat. And if you're interested in internships or jobs, or you just want to speak about anything to do with Fanbytes, you can drop me an email, mitchell@fanbytes.co.uk. Yeah, that's everything.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.